Welcome to the Hockey Writers Prospect Corner, a show with our top prospects writing crew, bringing you the latest news, analysis, scouting reports, mocks, rankings, and much more. From the World Juniors to the NHL draft floor, from the farm to the NHL, our team covers everything that happens in the world of prospects. So sit back, grab a notebook, and get ready for Prospect Corner.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Prospect Corner presented by the Hockey Writers. Today, we're going to be taking a look at the recently completed CHL NHL Top Prospects Game, and then we're going to dive into the midseason update of our top 100 NHL prospects here at the Hockey Writers. That was put together by Logan Horn. I'm your host, Matthew Zator, and today I'm joined by my co-host and fellow prospect analysts, Peter Baracchini, Dayton Reimer, and Tyson McKay. Peter, how's it going?
Doing great. Yeah. Prospect season is still in full swing right now. That was, I must say, that was a very entertaining prospects game. It was a lot of action, especially in the first period, like low scoring, but still very eventful. So, obviously I'm already regretting some of my choices from my January rankings. So, it's definitely going to be a big jump and big mix up, in terms of movement next time around. So, but yeah, good game all in all.
All right. Sounds good. And Dayton, how's it going?
Oh, it's pretty good. I don't know. It's been a tiring day, but I'm glad to talk some prospects here with you guys.
For sure. And Tyson, how's it going?
It was going pretty good. Got some surprise news about who's Nadinov today from Michael Russo of The Athletic. So we'll probably talk about that a little bit later on if we can sneak it in there. So it's always a good day when some of your favorite prospects might be coming over.
For sure. Yeah, I got some of that news earlier before the World. No, it was, I guess, after the World Juniors or during, kind of saying that Lekaramaki was going to come over next season, and Verlander, well, not Verlander, but what was the other one? Elias Pettersson also coming over too. So yeah, that it's always awesome to hear that they're going to be coming over to the AHL or wherever soon. So that's good. All right. Well, before we get into it, I got to remind everyone of our Substack here at the Hockey Writers. We recently expanded into the world of Substack. It's been a few months we've had it going, and lots of great content out there. We've got one dedicated to the NHL draft and prospect content. That's going to be ramping up really soon here with all the draft coverage and lots of stuff going on. Dayton's already put out a few exclusive articles out there. So take a look at that. There's the premium tier. That's part of that, but we also have the free version that you get 3 times a week or 2 or 3 times a week, depending on how much content we've got on the site. But when the draft goes, we'll be going 3 times a week, I'm sure. So check that out in the link below. Okay, well, let's dive into that top prospects game, and I'll start with you, Tyson. Talk about any standouts, disappointments. I mean, it's one game. It's not really you're going to be disappointed that someone didn't stand out or whatever. But who stood out for you in that game? For you.
There wasn't as many single standouts as I thought there was going to be. There wasn't too many players that grabbed me singularly, but I think the overall theme of the game was just defense and goaltending. It was, I think, just a clinic by both defensive blue lines from both teams, and the goaltending was fantastic, right? Nobody wants to be the goaltender that has to face the best of the best, basically, at their age group. And I think all 4 goaltenders did a fantastic job. Ryerson Leanders and Carter George, I know Peter mentioned them in his takeaways from the game, but I got to give them both a shout out. They were fantastic. There was multiple times during that first period and a half where I was super pumped. I was like, oh, this is a highlight reel goal. And instead it's a highlight reel save, which in some cases is even better. So I was very surprised. I really liked the pairing of, I think it was Charlie Ellick and Zane Parake. They were on Team Red, I believe. I thought they were really solid. They weren't really two of my top defenders heading in, but I think both of them were really solid and definitely moved themselves up a little bit in my mindset of where they should be going. Sam Dickinson, solid as always. I think at this point everyone knows how good he is, but special shout out. I think he's a massively high IQ for a defender. He kind of stepped in there, and in a situation where a lot of young defenders aren't really super comfortable, they don't have a lot of time to get comfortable with their pairing, find out what their partners are tendencies and stuff are like, and I think Sam did a great job at adjusting on the fly too. I think he was with Harrison Brunick. He did a great job just adjusting and still being as good as he always is. So those were my takeaways.
Should we be surprised that it was a defensive game, since most of the first round are defensemen?
Probably not. I think any NHL team looking for a high quality defender is going to be able to find one pretty easily in this first round.
Yeah, for sure. I was going to mention Sam Dickinson because he stood out for me for sure. His skating is really good. I mean, that was one thing I noticed right away for him. Over to you, Peter. I know you did the takeaways article on that, so take a look at that if you want to read Peter's stuff in written form. But your standouts from that game.
Yeah, I mean, just going back at the roster, we talked about the defensive clinic being put on Team White with the pairing of Fisher and Muse. I've been very hesitant or the jury's still out on Henry Muse. Like, what is he going to be overall? Because his stock kind of dropped, and I thought he had a really good game, and I really liked Lucas Fisher's, tenacity and physical side as well. I really thought that they stood out. Raul Boyard, who was the MVP for Team Red, basically got on the scoring on all 3 goals for Team Red. 2 goals and an assist, I believe, was his total count. And very strong two-way player. Now, one thing doesn't really stand out in his game. He's very, he's not as flashy, but he's very smart in where he is positionally and his decision-making. Really liked what he did there. But even the top 6 for Team White, they were a joy to watch every single time. And that was, I believe, Berkeley Canton, TJ Ginla, and Tarek Parasek, and then Liam Greentree, Jet Lachenko, and Beckett Seneca. So you had your all WHL line and all OHL line. I thought all 3 or all 6 were basically really good. They made stuff happen. They were on the forefront, especially TJ Ginla with his decision-making, the ability to attack very quickly in the neutral zone, his shot, the deceptiveness. Beckett Seneca with his hands in tight. I really liked Jet Lachenko's two-way game. Liam Greentree, his shot is just, probably one of the top 5 in this class as well, because he can pick spots very, very easily. An underrated name that I really liked was Colton Roberts, the Vancouver Giants defender. I thought he really stood out in a big way. Very composed, strong plays, with his breakout passing and his defensive game. Really took the time. He wasn't forcing stuff, but I really thought he had a standout game for Team White as well.
Yeah, I mean, it's just one game, but it does increase stock. It can get them more on the radar for a lot of scouts. So it is an important game, even though it was a defensive game. And Dayton, anything else you want to add for standouts there?
Well, you guys mainly covered who I was going to talk about. Ryerson Leaders looked great. He was calm, very solid. Charlie Alec had some great instincts to break up some plays. I really liked his defensive game. TJ Ginla, aggressive, all over the puck. Looked great. Sam Dickinson looked calm. All those guys really stood out to me. One guy I think is a little bit more underrated, though, Ollie Josephson from the Red Deer Rebels. Mm-hmm. He had a really slick move that almost resulted in a goal, but instead was a fantastic scoring chance, or not, fantastic save in the first period. And yeah, just someone who can kind of slide under the radar and create some of those plays. I thought he looked, when I did notice him, I thought he looked pretty good.
Yeah, I mean, that game, I'm sure, got some more, like I say, rose some stock for a lot of players. And I don't think anyone's disappointed with anyone. I mean, it's just, it's one game. You don't take too much out of it, even if one player didn't play very well. But yeah, it does get you more exposure for the scouts for sure. Okay, well, let's move on to some prospects that are drafted already and talk about our top 100, the midseason update. We did do an episode on the initial rankings. Some changed, some got some prospects got removed from this list because now they've graduated because they've played more than 25 games or something like that. So there are some guys that were deleted from this list, not because they're bad, but because they're now NHL players. They're not prospects anymore. All right. Well, let's move on to we're going to do this in 20s and talk about some guys throughout the top 100 and just highlight some of these prospects. I'll start with you, Dayton. From the 81 to 100 range, pick one of those players that you kind of want to shout out and highlight that everyone should be continuing to watch throughout this season and into the future.
All right. I quite like number 84, Grayson Sauchin. In the report, Peter, you mentioned that it'll take him some time to adjust to his new team, the Edmonton Oil Kings. No, not at all. He's been immediately good with the team. He's got 16 points in 13 games with them and has immediately clicked with Adam Yako. Never confident when I say that one.
I heard Yako.
Yeah. So he's just a tough competitor. He gets into position and can get a lot of assists because he's always in those really like messy areas. He's in the corner. He's behind the net. He's right in front of the goalie. And so he's there to deflect a shot in or get a pass out. Just a really good kind of grinding player. And I liked watching some of his highlights on how he can make things happen because he's just right in it.
Yeah, I always like players that have high motor, and I always love seeing that. And Sachin definitely does have that. Draft pick of the Florida Panthers. So yeah, he's a definite guy at the end. I mean, he's towards the end of this list. I mean, it's not means he's bad, but on the top 100, that's always good. All right, over to you, Tyson. Someone you want to highlight from this 81 to 100 range here.
I'm going to start with someone that I actually didn't expect to see on this list, but I'm happy is on there. It's number 99, Caden Bankier. He was always a wild prospect that I didn't really put a whole lot of stock into, and then all of a sudden it seemed like he blew up playing for the Kamloops Blazer one season, and he ended up making Team Canada the World Juniors. And since then, he just seems like he is determined to be an NHL player. He is just lighting it up basically wherever he goes. He was injured to start the season, so he turned pro. He's in the AHL now. He's only got 20 games in, but he's got 9 points in those 20 games. And with the way that the Wild season has gone, which we don't want to talk too much about, he's actually been playing a lot of games as the number one center down with the Iowa Wild. And I really like, I don't think he's going to be a top six or a top two line kind of guy. He's going to be more of that, the bottom six kind of player, bottom six center. But he just has a compete level that is, I would say, probably up there amongst the highest. He seems like once he sets his mind to something, he's going to do it. And that translates into his game where you see him a lot. He wins a lot of battles. He never gives up on a play. He's always in it. And I think that is going to be something that will eventually earn him a spot in the Wild's bottom six. And I think it's a great thing to see him there, just because he was not really a player that I think a lot of people expected to make, Team Canada that year, and I don't think a lot of people expect him to make it this far. So it's really nice to see.
It's definitely proving people wrong, that's for sure. I remember that Team Canada that everyone's kind of like, why is he on the team? But he is one of those guys that can be a good third, fourth line center, and we all know you need that in the playoffs, and you know how important that is throughout the season to have that type of depth and a guy that can do that. So yeah, definitely great to see him on this list. We'll see if he goes up in the next time this one's released. All right, Peter, what do you got for this 81 to 100 range here?
I am going to go with 82, Isaac Howard. When the Tampa Bay Lightning selected him in the draft, I immediately knew that this is going to be a pick where, because of their development, because of the system that they had, they didn't have a whole lot of prospects, but now they get a lethal shooter in there. And the speed that he has, I mean, it was just on display at the World Juniors. You know, he had 7 goals. He was explosive coming out from the corners. He always drives hard to the middle of the ice. And the swiftness and the accuracy that he has in his shot is very impressive. Obviously, the height factor still remains 5'10", but also he doesn't have, I mean, he is 190 pounds. So, the ability to still shield the puck may be a factor at times, maybe not. But the way that he's able to compose himself and, you know, use that lower center of gravity to his advantage with the skating and get out of tough situations, I think that's going to be very good for him. And, you know, again, we talk about how the Lightning don't have a very deep pool, but they made their selection count with this pick, and this could really pay off. I mean, again, World Juniors saw it right out of there.
Yeah. I've mentioned this in the show before. His personality is so great too. He seems like a very fun guy, very you know, really fun to be around and in the locker room. So that's another big thing to have going in the future as well. So really excited to see what he can do for the Lightning, because Lightning, they may not have the best prospect pool, like in general, like you said. They do have they seem to be able to hit on these. I don't know. Howard wasn't a late round pick, but not a first round pick. So he wasn't a first round pick, right?
Yeah, he was a late first.
Late first. So these guys that still not high picks that they're able to hit on, and that's what's got them where they are. Yeah, they do have Stamkos and those guys that were first overall picks, but since then it's all been these other more underrated guys. So Howard's definitely one of those. All right, let's move on to our 61 to 80 range as we keep going up the list. And I'll stay with you, Peter. Who do you got from this range here?
Oh, it's tough because this is a section where I actually wanted to talk about too, but I'll give a quick shout out. Tanner Molendyk was always a big fan. He's at 78, but I am going to pick, and going back to, you know, Slovak roots, Slovakia, Philip Mesar at believe I had to scroll back down because I had to scroll up and see what number Molendyk was, but Mesar at 61. I follow a lot of like Habs writers and prospect writers, and obviously the Habs writers are talking highly of Philip Mesar, but the fans are very concerned about, you know, what's wrong with Philip Mesar and everything like that. I'm like, watch the games in Kitchener.
Yeah,
because this guy is flying. He's out there, like he's doing everything on the ice in every single area. He's always competing hard. Changes speeds. He's very adept at doing that and slowing the game down and then picking it back up. Great hands and tight. Not much of a shooter, but then he did score, you know, a very key goal for Slovakia. But the playmaking is just on another level right now. And we saw that at the World Juniors. We're seeing that right now in Kitchener. 36 points in 24 games. I was under the impression that if the Maple Leafs kept their pick in 2022, I think Mesar would have been on their radar because he's their kind of player with the high-end skill, the speed, and the pace. It's looking very well for the Montreal Canadiens right now because, I mean, if you're still complaining about Mesar's, I can't even quite put my finger on it because some of the comments about Mesar are just, what?
Yeah.
Again, take the time to watch him. He's been one of my favorite Habs prospects ever since they drafted him. He's just on another level right now on a very lethal Kitchener Rangers team, and he's only going to get better.
Yeah, it's going to be fun to see him in the AHL really soon because, the Montreal Canadiens, they've got a really strong prospect pool, and this season they're actually doing pretty well. I mean, they're not in the they kind of are in the playoff picture. I don't think they're going to make it, but their prospects are really strong, and that's Mesar. Mesar is going to be one of those guys for sure. All right, Dayton, who do you got from this 61 to 80 range?
Well, Peter, thank you for not taking the other guy you mentioned, because he is my guy, Tanner Molendyk, number 72.
There you go. It works out.
It sure did. I will die on this hill. There is no prettier skater outside of the NHL. He is a dream to watch. Like, I can't use enough description to like paint an accurate picture. He just floats out there. I've been able to watch him several times over the last couple of years, and it's effortless. He just glides on the ice, and then all of a sudden he's at top speed and he's flying. And it like, where did that speed come from? I have no idea, but it's all of a sudden there, and it's beautiful. Now he did get injured at the World Juniors, which really sucked. I was really excited to watch him play. I think he would have honestly helped Canada finish a little bit better. He's a great presence, a two-way presence. He does have some very strong defensive chops. Last year, he was the guy when Regina came to town in Saskatoon. He was the one taking on Connor Bedard. There's a reason Regina didn't win a lot of games up in Saskatoon.
Yeah.
So like I think that's almost enough to say. But for the last since returning from his injury, January 13th, he's only been held off the score sheet once. So 8 points in 6 games. That's pretty good. Looks like he's going to double his point total from last year, which is that's a great improvement. That's what you want to see. Yeah, this kid's something special, and the Nashville Predators are going to be very happy with him.
They're really good at drafting defensemen. Maybe not as much lately, getting these NHLers, but they do got a good amount in the system still. And he was drafted with the pick that they got in the Ekholm deal. So he's maybe replacing Matthias Ekholm down the line. Not the same type of defenseman, but he will be an NHLer, I think. So just because of his skating, like you said. Right, Tyson, finally, who you got on this 61 to 80 range of the rankings here?
This one's pretty easy for me, and I'm going right back to my Minnesota Wild wheelhouse. This is number 68, Marat Huznadinov. Big news from got slipped into a mailbag from The Athletic today that the Wild are looking at more than likely bringing him over to the NHL once he finishes his season in the KHL this year. So probably about a month's time, we might finally get to see Huznadinov break into the NHL. They're going to burn a year of his contract, it looks like, and I don't blame them. He's a fantastic player. He's drastically undersized, which is like a lot of people's main knock against him. I think he's 5'9". I think Elite Prospect still has him listed at 165 pounds. This is a small man. He's still probably crossing his fingers that he wants to grow a little bit. I don't think it's going to happen for him. He's 21, 22, but I don't think that's going to be a problem for Huznadinov at all. He has, anytime I've been able to catch any of his games over in the KHL, he has always impressed me both on the offensive and defensive side of things. He had 41 points in 63 games last season with SKA St. Petersburg. Unfortunately, some troubles getting into the lineup this season for one reason or another. We won't mention what's going on over there. He's got traded to Sochi. Just recently, he's been promoted to captain. He's been moved up to number 1C. He just seems like the kind of player that he puts in the work. He plays a full 200-foot game, and coaches can't not like him. He just seems to end up worming his way into everyone's hearts and just producing wherever he goes. So it's pretty exciting. It's always a little bit scary whenever the team takes a little bit higher chance on a Russian player, especially one at his size. So I'll be really excited to see what he can do in the NHL once he finally gets over here.
Yeah, don't get me started with Scott St. Petersburg. They just messed up Podkolzin's when he was over there. But yeah, he's one guy that I've kind of kept an eye on too. I mean, I loved undersized players, so these guys succeeding, I love it. So I'm gonna be interested to see what he does in coming over as well, and that's good news for the Wild for sure. All right, well, before we move into our top 50, I gotta remind you again of our Substack here at the Hockey Writers. Make sure you're checking that out. Say we have a prospect NHL draft version of the Substack. You can take a look at the free version and subscribe to that, or you can also upgrade to our paid premium option, which doesn't just get you access to prospect Substack. You can also peruse the rest of the NHL teams and NHL history, news and rumors, bunch of other stuff on there with one subscription. You don't have to subscribe to a ton of them. Just pay one price. We've also got a 24% discount going on until I believe it's February 1st when the All-Star festivities start. So check that out before you miss out on that 24% discount on the annual subscription. All right, well, let's move into our top fit. Well, we're into the 60, but top 50. The 41 to 60 range. And I'll start with you, Dayton, on this one. Anyone from this, as we move up the list, we're going to get to even more exciting prospects. Who do you got in this 41 to 60?
Right, I'm going to stick with the Saskatoon Blades because I've been able to watch them quite a bit. And we're going to go with Fraser Minton at 58. So he's been an interesting one for me. When he came over, he wasn't immediately noticeable, at least to me. He doesn't stick out on the ice until he immediately does. So he is just, I think, the perfect clutch performer. He does exactly what he needs to when he's needed, which is why Saskatoon acquired him quite a bit before the trade deadline. They wanted to get as much time with him in the team as they could because this is a team built for the playoffs. And he's a playoff performer. He was great with the Kamloops Blazers, helping them win a championship, I believe. If I don't have my years mixed up, pretty sure he was on that team. He's got 18 points in 15 games in Saskatoon with the Blades, and he did have a 4-goal streak back in January, or I guess this is still January. It was middle of January. He had it. Yeah. And a big overtime goal against the Swift Current Broncos just a couple of nights ago. So he doesn't really show up, but he does everything right. He's a really smart player, a really tough player, kind of gets in those tough areas, like I was mentioning with Sauchin. But I believe just has a bit more of that high-end skill where he can really break out and just pull off a crazy move like he did against Swift Current. If you haven't seen it, check it out. It's a beauty.
Hey, well, he made the Maple Leafs out of camp, so impressed them enough. Didn't stick around very long, but he's gonna be a really good. I don't think a top 6 guy, but definitely a good third line. I don't want to say fourth. I think he's probably gonna be a third liner.
Yeah.
In the NHL at some point. Who knows? Could jump into the top 6 as well, but definitely has upside for the Maple Leafs for sure. All right, over to you, Peter. Who do you got from this 41 to, or what do we got? Yeah, 41 to 60.
It's a good thing that Dayton talked about a Maple Leaf prospect, so I won't have to. There is another name there, but I'm going to keep that just to myself for now. But I am going to go down to 45, and that's Gavin Brindley of the Columbus Blue Jackets. We talked about Dayton. You talked about Grayson Sachin, about his motor and his speed and his energy that he brings. Brindley does just that. He's got all those aspects just into one game, and he's just relentless when pursuing the puck. I mean, he was second in team scoring on Team USA for the World Juniors, 6 goals, was a real catalyst for them throughout the whole entire tournament with his offensive game and his ability to get in on the attack. And yeah, he is just around 5'9", 5'10", but doesn't let that bother him at all. And even with the University of Michigan, where they had that bit of a roster turnover, they need players to step up, and he's stepping up big time for them with 30 points in 23 games. Yes, 30 points in 23 games. And they're very deep throughout their lineup too, with Rucker McGorty, Seamus Casey, Frank Nazar. He's standing out in a big way. And, he was a player that I would have liked in the first round. I think he had first round potential, but I think he just slipped into the second, which isn't all that far off. But I was very high on him last season in the draft, and Columbus took advantage of that early on. So he is going to be my pick for there.
Gavin Brindley, well, everyone knows I love Gavin Brindley, so not to say much more. He another, like you say, undersized player, but his compete level is just off the charts. He never takes a shift off. Very much like Connor Garland. He always reminds me of Connor Garland every time I see him. So I think he's going to be that type of forward in the NHL. And that's going to be great for the Blue Jackets, who got some pretty good prospects already playing for them. So Brindley's going to add to that very soon, I think, too. All right. Lastly, Tyson, who do you got from this 41-60. I don't know if there's any wild ones in this one.
There is. There is, and I'm going to
There
talk about
is.
them.
There you go.
Speaking of players that should have gone in the first round but didn't, Riley Height. Talk about a steal there. Thank God, because that draft otherwise might have been.
Yeah.
Prince George Cougars. He is leading a very good Prince George Cougars team in points. He just broke a couple records. It was either last night or the night before. He now leads the Prince George Cougars all time in assists and points. And that's because he's a point machine. He's got 80 points in 45 games in the WHL. And I've seen him described a couple times as nasty. And that's just, it's stuck with me. And every time you watch him, just everything about him is nasty. He's a great playmaker. One of my favorite things is how well he holds onto the puck. He's really strong through the neutral zone. Makes him a natural fit on their power play, which is just fantastic. But he's got great edge work. You see it's nasty. His shot is nasty. He's got a little nasty edge to him. So, he goes into those board battles and you're like, almost a little bit questionable. Like he's made a few plays there where he's got, I guess Minnesota likes to use the word grit. He's got it. He's got a lot of it. I'm excited to see if he's going to be able to translate all of those skills to the NHL level. If he does, he's an easy top 6 player. I think he's got some really high end skills there. Fantastic pickup for the second round, but nasty player. Just can't wait to see if that nasty translates to NHL.
For sure. And he was drafted with one of the last picks of the second round. He was almost a third round pick, which is come on, like what he's done. And I think a lot of projected him in the first round or just outside of it, I believe. So to get him that low, I know when we were watching the draft, like Height hasn't been picked yet. What is happening? So the Wild got a steal for sure there. We'll see what he does as the future goes. I'm gonna quickly shout out Hunter Brzustewicz, 55, on close to the top 50, and obviously he's doing amazing in the OHL. He's gone, I believe, 2 games without a point. It's like, that's a slump, man. Come on, he's got to get his points going again. 2-game slump, but he's I believe he's still on pace to close to 100 points. Amazing for a defenseman. We'll see what he can do and see if he can do that and hit 100 points, because that hasn't been done for a long time. All right, into our top 40, our 21 to 40. We're getting down to the top 10 soon here. I'll start with you, Peter. Who do you got in this 21 to 40 range?
Going with one of the best names probably on this list, and that's Rutger McGroarty. Probably noticing a theme right now. I'm picking all players from, national junior team that just won gold. But I mean, you notice the leadership quality and the intensity that Rutger plays with. He's got that power forward mentality. He's got the speed. He's got the shot, the work ethic. When the Winnipeg Jets picked him, I really thought that was a typical Jets pick, because he has that mentality, the winning attitude, the work ethic, the physical side as well. It just seemed like a perfect fit. And we saw that, in University of Michigan last year, this season in the World Juniors. It's just making that pick look even better right now. And, they just got a good one in him. Probably going to be a key factor on that second line for them in the near future. See what happens when he leaves college. But I love the way that he brings with his mentality to the game, and even off the ice too. He's very personable, great personality. He's willing to talk to anybody. Got that lighter side to his character as well. So he's a player that's going to stand out for me for a long time.
Winnipeg Jets got a good one there for sure. They're a contending team, and they got some really good prospects coming up. So I think, McGroarty's going to be fun to watch in the NHL at some point. Okay, Dayton, who do you got from this 21 to 40?
There was 2 I wanted to talk about. Olin Zellweger is always a fun one to mention. Little defenseman. Like, if he's not the poster child for stop sleeping on small players,
Yeah.
like why was he a second rounder? He's one of the most productive defensemen in any junior league or minor league ever.
Yeah.
And yeah, that's a bit of an overstatement, I realize, but he will be. He knows how to score. However, I think I want to talk a little bit more about number 38, David Goyette. I think, and maybe this is a bit of a hot take, he should have been on the World Junior team. He was, and still is, one of the most productive players in the OHL. He, at 19 years old, has that age that Hockey Canada usually looks for, even though he hasn't been on previous teams, national teams before. Currently second in the league for scoring, but his patience with the puck and in any sort of playmaking situation is really incredible to watch. He is able to just sort of wait out whatever someone else is going to do, and then he makes his move and has an opportunity to pass the puck or put another shot on net. He's always in the right position because he just knows where to go. Such a smart player. I think that would have fixed some of Canada's lack of scoring and lack of getting the offense into those areas. Of course, we can wish and think about all we want, but I think Seattle really good player there. Maybe not a top 6 one, but like I could see a future second liner in the right situation. Just a really interesting player that I'm definitely going to keep watching as he goes about his NHL career.
Seattle Kraken, they sure can pick prospects. I've said this, first expansion team, they've got a pretty good prospect pool already, and they're only in their 3rd season in the league. So yeah, pretty good. And that's another good prospect they've got. All right, Tyson, you're gonna have to pick one of these guys because you got 2 wild. I believe it's 2. Or more. There may be one more. No, it's only 2. But they're high-end guys. So who do you got?
Yeah. I mean, either one of these guys is great fun to talk about, but I'm going with Liam Ogren. He was, I think he underperformed heavily at the World Juniors, and he didn't put up the numbers that that really would have showed how well his play otherwise was. I really liked every time I watched him with the puck, he was doing the right things. He could never find the back of the net. And I think that's something that he's probably a consequence of him being injured for most of the start of the season. He only got, I think it was 2 or maybe 3 games in before he headed off to the World Juniors. So he did look a little bit rusty, but the hallmarks of his game are there. I know whenever the Wild draft him 19th overall, he was kind of the safe bet of that Djurgården trio at that time, right? He was kind of, he had the lowest ceiling but the highest floor. And I think he's going to live up to that. He looks like a very solid middle 6 kind of player. He's great with the puck. He's great at getting the puck. He plays, everything is in motion for him. Everything is just, he's always moving. And I think he's going to be great if they can set him up with someone who can really finish. Either that, or if he can manage to evolve some of that finishing skill that he has, because he does have a great shot. I think he can really help out the Wild. He has some size, which a lot of their higher end prospects are smaller right now. So I think he's one of a kind on the Wild prospect pool, and I think he's a lot better than a lot of people realize at this point. But once he gets over the AHL, NHL, I think a lot more people are going to see just how skilled he really is.
He only had 2 assists at the World Juniors, which, he didn't produce a lot, but I noticed him. I mean, that's it's not like he wasn't noticeable. So we'll see what he can do. He's a very skilled player. I think he's going to end up being, again, I think a top 6 player in the NHL at some point. So yeah, really excited to see what he can do in the future too. All right, into our top 20. I didn't miss anyone in that 21 to 40. I'm gonna make sure I've got to everyone. 11 to 20, our top 20 here. I'll start with you, Dayton, on this as we get into close to our top 10. Who do you got from this 11 to 20 range?
Yeah, once again, I prepared 2, just in case one of mine was stolen. So I get first pick. Ooh, okay. Let's go with one of, I think, the smartest players I've had the pleasure of watching live. And that is Nate Danielson at 14.
Mm-hmm.
So Detroit Red Wings first rounder from last year. He really stuck out to me when I was watching him the first time. I had some great seats, and his head was just on a swivel. He would always be looking for where he needed to be, not where he had to be now.
Mm-hmm.
So it was great to see just that active thinking and active figuring out of where the play is going and how it's developing. And he would position himself to always be where the puck was going to be. Puck's trying to sneak out, defensemen are putting it against the boards. He's right there because he saw what that was going to happen. He hasn't had the greatest season so far. His points have been a little bit dry, especially with the Brandon Wheat Kings. The trade to the Portland Winterhawks has seemingly kind of taken some of the pressure off of him, and he's brightened up a bit, if you want to say it that way. So in the last 6 games, he has 8 points, just like Molendyk. So maybe a little less, again, than you'd expect. He's on pace for 20 less than he'd got last year. But in the NHL, I don't think he's ever going to be a top point producer. He is a second line, just playmaker, and maybe not playmaker, but a guy who makes things happen, and just such a smart player, defensive player. Yeah, he's definitely going to make the Red Wings a better team in the future. Just might take him a little bit to get there.
Yeah, Nate Danielson is I was actually a little bit surprised that he got drafted that high, but definitely going to be a great two-way player. Top, I don't know if a top line center, but yeah, definitely a second line guy that can do everything. And you need that. You need those guys in the NHL. So yeah, he's going to be exciting for the Red Wings to have him in the lineup at some point in the future too. All right, go to you, Tyson. You have no Minnesota Wild in this one, so you're gonna pick someone else. Who do you got?
You're going to force me to talk about someone other than the Minnesota Wild. That's painful. What's even more painful is let's talk about someone who should have been a Minnesota Wild player. That's Gabe Perreault. I was devastated, to put it lightly. The Wild didn't pick Perreault. And I've said this a couple times, and it's not because I don't like Charlie Stramel. I think he's a good player. I don't like the pick because Gabe Perreault was still available. He is a Sherbrooke native, so he's broken my heart a couple times now because I was really hoping that he was going to stick around the QMJHL. I really wanted to see him play. I've been following him for a little bit now, but he did some great things in the U.S. National, the under-18 team there. 132 points, I think he had in like 63 games. It was absolutely ridiculous pace. And somehow he's even better this year at Boston College. And everyone saw it at the World Juniors, what kind of skill he has. He's just, he sees the ice in a way that leads to offense, no matter who he's with. And I think he's going to be probably the biggest miss that the Wild have had in recent years, just because they have done a fantastic job of drafting recently. But I was surprised to see him fall this far. I thought he was going to go a lot higher than he did, but the Rangers really got a real good one with Perreault. He's shown it this year with Boston College. I think he had a lot of people that doubted him, and I mean, Boston College is a great team, and he's their leading point scorer right now. So I think that says just about everything you need to know about him, right?
Yeah, I think we had made a comment on the show about Gabe Perreault maybe falling to a playoff team, which would have been, and did. He fell to a team that made the playoffs. So that happened. But yeah, Gabe Perreault's a heck of a talent and very, very, he's gonna be a very good player in the NHL, that's for sure. Okay, Peter, last but not least, who do you got from the 11 to 20?
I don't talk about Dalibor Dvorsky as much as I should, so I am going to take the opportunity and talk about Dalibor Dvorsky. Dayton mentioned David Goyette with the Sudbury Wolves, and I believe they're on that same line. I believe it's him, Musty, and Goyette. Like all three of those players are just dominating the OHL right now, but Dvorsky coming overseas, playing in the OHL. He's looked extremely dominant in that regard, where he has that bull in a china shop kind of mentality where he's always attacking the middle of the ice. He's got the strength to do so. He's got the skill, the hands, and the shot. He's always noticeable in the offensive zone. There's, I still question a bit of his defensive impact, his ability in transition and everything like that, but his play against men the previous season set him up for this right now. Kind of seems like a bit of a downgrade to go back to junior, but him coming over just opens the door and the possibility of getting to the NHL maybe a little bit quicker. He's already got 49 points in 28 games, and again, he just looks fantastic. Hasn't missed a beat. Had an okay World Juniors. It wasn't great, but his playing the OHL is a much larger sample that doesn't really reflect that as well. Or that does reflect his true game. But yeah, I really like what he has. I think it was a good selection for the St. Louis Blues early on. 10th overall, I think that was probably the range. 8 to 10 or 8 to 12 was where he was going to be. And they took advantage of that, and they got a really powerful, strong scoring center or slash right wing. So, yeah, he's definitely going to be a good one for the Blues.
Yeah, that move to the Sudbury Wolves in the OHL, that was massive. He got off to a slow start in Europe, and I think it's a good move to get him over to the OHL and see what he can do over here for sure. And he's thriving. Okay, I lied with the going to in 20s. I broke down the top 20 into two groups, which I mean, we got to talk about more players than our high end here. So our top 10, and I'll quickly go through it before we focus on a few. Number 10, Cutter Gauthier, who is now an Anaheim Ducks prospect. Simon Edvinsson from the Detroit Red Wings, Yuri Kulik, the Buffalo Sabres, Ryan Leonard, Washington Capitals, Logan Stankoven for the Dallas Stars. Going to the top 5, we got Shane Wright, Seattle Kraken, Will Smith, the San Jose Sharks, Simon Nemec for the New Jersey Devils, Brant Clark for the LA Kings, and our top prospect on the top 100, Matt Michkov of the Philadelphia Flyers. So the Flyers could have had 2 on this list, but they traded Cutter Gauthier away, so they only have 1. All right, I'll start with you, Tyson. Who do you want to talk a bit more from this top 10?
I'm going to take the opportunity to talk a little bit about Shane Wright. Fantastic player. I was actually really surprised to see him slip in the draft. He was number 1 overall prospect for a reason. But I'm actually really happy that he ended up with Seattle, just because he feels like the kind of player, especially with what he had to deal with through the COVID season and then through last year. He feels like the kind of player who just needs to be able to settle down and play. And I don't think he would have got that if he had been drafted by Montreal. I think we see that a little bit right now about Slavkovsky. Montreal fans are not for the faint of heart. They are very diehard and very aggressive. And Shane Wright, I've watched a couple of Coachella Valley games, and he's never the player that stands out the most to me. But at the end of the night, you look at the scorecard, and he always seems like he's there, and he's always doing the right things. Crazy season last season. Just if you go and look at his elite prospects page, it looks like he's been in the season for he's been in way too many leagues for how young he is. He's played with the Kraken, with the Firebirds. He played with the Windsor Spitfires just last year, and so this is a player that At 20 years old, he's already got exemptions from 2 different leagues to play in higher leagues because he produces too much to be in the league that he should be in. So I'm really excited to see what Seattle is able to do. I think they're going to have an absolutely disgusting 1-2 punch down the center with him and Matty Beniers. I think that is a fantastic tandem to build a franchise off of. But yeah, I think a couple seasons for him just to kind of play hockey and evolve and get his game where it needs to be, and we're going to start seeing some pretty disgusting plays from Seattle coming up in the future with their 1-2 down the center. So it should be good.
Yeah, Shane Wright, he's sure traveled around lots of leagues, lots of teams. I think he played for Team Canada in that time as well. So yeah, he's got a ton of jerseys. That's for sure. All right, Dayton, who do you want to focus a bit more on from this top 10?
I'm going to steal a Slovak from Peter here. And I am going to talk about Simon Nemec. So you mentioned that Shane Wright fell, and it was unbelievable that he did. And I agree, but Nemec is the reason why. The Devils saw him, I'm sure, at the World Juniors, like we all did, and then had to see more because this was a kid who was playing so far above his age level that Slovakia almost didn't know what to do with him. He made a pro debut at 15 years old. Who does that, right? Already played 3 World Juniors, I think. I think he had a 16, 17, and 18-year-old season, which is also incredible. And when the Devils had the 2nd overall pick, they knew no matter what, they're taking Nemec.
Yeah.
And it's paid off for them super well. He has 13 points in 26 games, which on the rookie scoring, maybe not as high, but don't forget that is just slightly below Luke Hughes's point pace. Just under half a point, or he's at half a point a game, and then Luke Hughes is just over half a point a game, which is great. He's got an incredible shot from the point. He has, always looking for an opportunity to put the puck at the net, which has resulted in him putting up those 13 points, 11 of which are assists. He just creates opportunities wherever he is. He's a very intelligent player. I've mentioned that for a couple of guys, but this guy's very smart on the back end, and it's probably set up to be a fantastic quarterback for like a power play or really anything. He's always in control. And as he grows and gets better, he's going to be even more. And the Devils are going to be super scary in the back end.
Yeah. So what's funny is that this list was updated on January 11th. He is now no longer a prospect. He's now played 26 games this season, but this list was done before he played those 25 games. So we're going to forgive Logan on that one. But he is definitely still a borderline prospect, depending on what criteria you use. But definitely deserving of being on this list. And the next one, he won't be. So definitely a good player. Right, who am I missing? Who hasn't gone? Peter, who do you got from this 11 to 20 or 1 to 10?
I'm going to take advantage and talk about a player that probably won't be on the list next year, and that's Logan Stankoven. We talked about how much we love Logan previous years, how he shouldn't have dropped that far to the 2nd round. And, as a rookie leading the OHL and scoring on pace for 92 points, just absolutely ridiculous. I mean, I don't know what else to say. The work ethic, the speed, the competitive edge, the drive that he has, it's made for the NHL. And I think he's going to get there sooner rather than later. It won't be long. I think after the season plays out, he's definitely ready for the NHL next season. So I'm going to take the chance right now, talk about him, then make him my pick before he's gone.
Yeah, I don't think he's going to last on this list much longer. He just dominates every league he's in. I mean, he's now in the AHL, and he's going to probably approach 100 points, like you said. he's going to be with the Dallas Stars in no time. And I want to say he's probably going to dominate the NHL as well. So we'll be watching for Stankoven, that's for sure. All right, I'm going to mention Will Smith just to because there's one of our listener or viewers always says we don't talk about San Jose Sharks prospects. So I'm going to talk about a San Jose Sharks prospect. Will Smith is he's a great prospect. He's number 4 on this list. Probably going to be the San Jose Sharks top line center pretty quickly. I mean, they've got such a young team. I think they're going to end up being one of those. He's going to be a first line center pretty soon. And he definitely has all the tools to be that great playmaker. That's his biggest attribute. And he's got a pretty good score to, William Eklund, who potentially he's already in the NHL, but he could have a really good playmaker with him soon. So Will Smith definitely worthy of being number 4 on this list. And again, a guy that could be off of it pretty quickly in the next couple of seasons, depending on when he comes over to the NHL. So Will Smith, just to mention a San Jose Sharks prospect right now. Okay, well, that's our top 100. But and Connor Bedard's not on it. We knew he was going to graduate. The minute we put him on this list, he was going to be gone pretty quickly, and he is. And replaced by Matvei Michkov, who is definitely worthy of being the top prospect on this list as well. And we've talked many times about Matvei Michkov. So if you want to listen to what we have to say about him, just go back to some old episodes, because he's going to be a heck of a player for the Philadelphia Flyers too in the future. Okay, well, this top 100, there may be guys that aren't on it that you think are worthy of it. So quickly, Tyson, who do you have, if anyone, that you believe should be on this top 100 list that isn't right now?
I think it's a pretty solid list. On my own personal Minnesota Wild, I'm going back to the Minnesota Wild again because why not? I had Hunter Height above Caden Bankier. I really like Height's game. I think in the end, Bankier probably has a little bit, Height probably has a little bit higher ceiling than Bankier does. Bankier just happens to be a little bit closer to NHL ready at this point, so I could see why Bankier would get the nod over Height in some cases. But I really love Hunter Height's game. I think it's going to be really confusing in the upcoming years because Wild are probably going to have Height and Height. Which is going to be great fun for more than one reason. The names, always fun. The play, probably be even better. So I was a little bit surprised not to see him there, but understand why.
Yeah, I just got the same thing with Pedersen. They got both the same first name, so that's even going to get even worse. All right, Dayton, who do you have that you believe should be on this list, if anyone?
Yeah, I kind of agree with Tyson. I think it's a pretty solid list. I don't know if I would actually make any changes. If I was going to push one guy, it would be Jorian Donovan. Seeing as there's no Senators on the list, I should probably advocate for at least one of them, seeing as I cover them. Yeah, he's been really solid this year. Kind of a breakout year in the OHL. He's going to be a very solid defenseman, I think. Again, not a very high ceiling, but yeah, a very interesting player. Could be very solid two-way second pairing, maybe third pairing. Is he a top 100 prospect? I don't know, but he's close for sure.
Just outside the top 100. There's a lot of players on this list, so there are a few that aren't on it. Peter, do you have anyone that you believe should be on this list that isn't?
I would have liked to have seen Carson Rakoff from the Kitchener Rangers, Seattle Kraken prospect. I mean, he lost the goal scoring lead because he was at the World Juniors. He has 37 still in 39 games, almost a goal per game. That's really unheard of. That's really impressive, to be honest. He's just one name that I probably would have had on there because of the torrid scoring pace that he's on. And again, big fan of Carson Rakoff myself. So, yeah, that's probably just the one player I'd probably add in.
Yeah, I like this. I love this list. There's 2 Canucks on it, so McKay, Villander, and Lekaramaki got on there. So Yeah, I'm good with the top 100. And Brzustewicz too. So yeah, three of them. Okay, now we got to talk about more prospects and our prospect of the week. And of course, it doesn't have to be on this top 100. It could be, who knows. I'll start with you, Tyson. Who's your prospect of the week this week?
Prospect of the week this week. I'm going to go. I can't go year off because I went with him last week, I think. So I'm going to go Jesper Wallstedt. And not for the reason that everyone thinks. He hasn't had a fantastic week, mostly because he hasn't played. But I think that in the interviews that I have seen since his introduction to the NHL, that most people will want to or have already tried to forget about, he has really shown a mentality and an attitude towards his game that impressed me even more so, if that was possible. He has this fantastic attitude towards his game where he just is constantly trying to improve, and he seems almost unshakable, which is something that is fantastic to have in a goaltender, because it's one of the last things you want is your goaltender getting a little shaken and behind your team. So I've seen a couple of conversations since he's had that horrible introduction to the NHL, and I just give him a shout out for the mental fortitude that he has had since then.
Yeah, it's hard to come into a game, your first NHL game, and then not have a good one. So definitely good he's bounced back from that. All right, Peter, who do you got as a prospect of the week quickly here?
The other thing I didn't mention him during the top 100 because I'm mentioning him right now, and that's Easton Cowan. I don't usually pick Toronto Maple Leafs prospects, but this is one worth doing so. 6 multi-point games heading into his matchup tonight. 3 3-point games and 3 2-point games. Just unbelievable pace of what he's doing right now for the London Knights. He's really taken a big step in regards to his production, and he's played less games than mostly everyone else because he stayed up with a little bit during training camp longer than expected, and he's on pace for 101 points. So obviously we love those on pace stats because they're always accurate, but he is very productive right now. So he is my prospect of the week.
Good pick for sure. And Dayton, you're really quick. Who do you got as a prospect of the week?
I'm going to stick with another Blade. I was lucky to go to the Raiders versus Blades on Friday when the Raiders unveiled their Cobra Chickens logo. I don't know if you guys saw that going around. It was really fun. In that game, Brandon Lazowski had 2 goals. So he's going to be my prospect of the week. That capped off a 7-game goal streak in which he had 8 goals in. He's a fantastic goal scorer. Of course, another undersized player, but the Leafs snagged a great guy in the 7th round. I think he's got the potential to steal an NHL spot in the next 3-4 years. Yeah, very talented, very hard worker, just a great little player.
Yeah, I liked that in the 7th round for the Maple Leafs for sure. Okay, well, there's another episode of Prospect Corner. Thanks, Peter, Dayton, and Tyson for coming on the show. Make sure to check out all of our Hockey Writers content. Lots of great stuff over at the site. And make sure checking out the Substack. Lots of great stuff there too. But till next time, we'll see you on another episode of Prospect Corner.